Alright, for this video, you should have already established the look and feel of your head and begun to animate him looking back and forth throughout your design. If you play through on my design, you can see that he's got a variety of different head movements for him looking left and right. You can see his eyebrows are moving up and down, and his eyes are moving independently. I listened to the audio as he's playing, and I adjusted his head accordingly. Now what we want to do is to go back and add some sort of blinking movement to the eyes. Now a lot of this is going to depend on how you have your person set up and created for your design. But I want to give you kind of the easiest way, in my opinion, to think about this. First, I'm going to double click on my head, and let's go into one of the eye sublayers. Remember, on my timeline, I've got a timeline for the pupil and the white of the eye. And I want to be able to edit this eye so that it can blink whenever I need it to. So to do this, I want to create a separate layer that has a lid on top of it. Then I can activate that layer whenever I want him to blink. So since I want to have an upper lid that comes down and I want to have a bottom lid that comes up, I really need two layers. Also, I want to have that lid covered up and be the same size and structure as the white of my eye. So I need to mask it off so that it can be seen, but not outside of the eye itself. So technically I need three different layers. Here's how I'm going to set mine up. I'm going to go down to my timeline and create one layer. I'm going to call this my upper lid. I'm going to create another layer now. We'll call this my lower lid. And we'll create another layer and we'll call this my mask layer. Whoops, let's double click on that. We'll call it the mask lid for this. Now I can go down to my timeline and choose the upper lid and select your rectangle tool. From here, we can set our fill color to be the same flesh color as you would use for your skin, and the stroke color can be the same outline that we've used for the eye. In my case, it'll be black. We also want to be able to have the same kind of outline that you have for your eye. So I want to change my width profile back to match that up as well. So we'll choose that. Now I can zoom in and I'm going to create a rectangle that's large enough to cover the upper portion of my eye, but also wide enough that it goes well beyond the width of my eye. This is because when I swap over to my selection tool, I want to be able to click and drag and move it upward, or at least this bottom edge upward, so that it completely covers and clears the upper portion of the eye. Later on, we'll add a keyframe that has this moving down into position. But for now, we'll keep it up here. So with that set up for here, let's do the same thing for the lower lid. Again, go down to your timeline, select the lower lid, choose your rectangle, and we'll click and drag and create a lower lid that covers this lower portion of his eye. Now we do want both of these to kind of match up, so I'll select both of those and I'm going to nudge it up until they're both touching. Then from here we can click on this upper edge and simply drag it down until it clears out of the way. I'm actually going to move this just a bit more. We'll double click everything. Now I can select this upper portion and drag it down too. Now this looks very weird, but let's go through and add the closing movement for it. Going down to my timeline, a blink should only last just a couple of seconds, or a couple of frames, excuse me. So I'm going to move forward just a few frames and hit F6 for there. And let's create the closing position for each one of these lids as well. So for the lower lid, and that one's selected, we can click on the bottom portion here and close it up. Then I can click on the top portion and bring it back down to match as well. Then, since it's a shape, all I've got to do is insert my tween between both of those and then test to make sure that it works correctly. Since we only moved one edge, it should be okay. There's our moving motion for it. Then from here, all we've got to do is have it move back. So selecting a few frames over again, we'll hit F6. And then from this position, let's move it back up. So clicking on this top portion, we'll drag it back up. And the bottom portion, drag it back down. Then go back down to your timeline and add your shape tween or motion tween, whichever you had set up. So now we've got a simple little blink motion in between there. The final thing we need to do is to mask off both of our lids. In order to do this, we want it to be the same size, shape, and position as the white of your eye. So going back to frame 1, I'm going to select the white of my eye, we'll copy it, and then go up to our mask layer and let's paste it in the same spot. We'll go up to Edit, Paste in Place, and this will give us our mask right on top of it. We need to turn this into an official mask layer, so right-click on the mask and choose Mask. You can see by default it automatically adds the lower lid. Let's do the same thing for the upper lid. Simply click on it and drag up, and you can see it'll add it inside of that masked area as well. From here, if you lock down the mask, the upper and the lower lid, this will turn off visibility for everything. Now when you play through, you can see it actually blinking from there, and that looks really good. With this done, now we need to do the same thing for the left eye. Since we've already got everything established down here, we can actually just copy and paste over many of these layers and frames and readjust for the left eye, so you don't have to restart from scratch. All I'm going to do is select my mask lid through the upper and lower lids, right click, and let's copy the layers. With that done, we can then go into our left eye, double click on it, and let's paste the layers into here. So right click here, choose Paste Layers, and this will add everything that's on top. The only thing that we need to change up for this is the mask so that it's appropriate for this left eye. So I'm going to unlock my mask for now, select it and delete it away, and let's copy the white from this eye. So selecting this one, Command C to copy that white, select your mask layer, go up to Edit, and then paste it in place. This will give us our new mask for this layer. Now when I go through, I can lock that down. You can see this will also blink as well. Also, the next time you need a blink, you can simply repurpose these same keyframes that you've already established. So to create a next blink, all I need to do is to select each of these keyframes by holding down Shift and clicking and dragging over all of those. I can right click on this and we'll copy those frames. With those selected, I can then move my playhead down to wherever I need it to be. And since the white of the eye doesn't move, but the pupil does, that's okay. All I need to do to add another blink, let's say I want to add a blink right here as the eye transitions, I can click on these frames, right click, and we'll do Paste and Overwrite frames. And notice that this will paste it on here. Do be sure to do Paste and Overwrite and not simply paste the frames. This will add it and overwrite the existing frames. And that'll add another blink wherever is necessary for yours. Go through wherever you feel is necessary to add a blinking motion. Just make sure you do the same for both the left and the right eye as you're animating it. Otherwise, it's going to wink at you as he starts to move. As you add these blinks, you can also play around with the timing of it as well by simply clicking on the keyframes and dragging them over to extend their time and repositioning their movement along here. So you can have a slower blink as it moves or a faster blink depending on what you need. These little blinks are a quick and easy way of adding more lifelike believability to your overall head's structure. Now the next thing we'll talk about is how to save and export your final video.